One. All right, guys, we are live um, and on time to the minute. I'm going to give a very brief reintroduction just for a tiny bit of context, much more depth on our YouTube channel, Impeopled, where we discuss the past, the present, and to some extent the future. But if you want to go deeper, that's where I would go. Check it out. But the very short summary is that Impeopled was a social media platform founded over 10 years ago that wanted to introduce the idea of self governance into social media so that communities could dynamically decide for themselves what their future should be using governance tools that we take for granted in the real world. Things like elections, legislation around rules governing the community, what tools to build, how to organize and spend money, those sorts of things. And one of the key principles was to keep it modular so that different aspects of the country's governance could be run using different logic than others. The idea being not only would that potentially serve the community better, but it allows for experimentation, in fact, parallel experimentation from community to community on different structures that might work for different purposes. And the success of one would eventually, spill over to the success for everybody because it could be copied and used as other communities saw fit. So coming to today, and we were basically, as far as I know, if not the world's first DAO, certainly one of them, or what we would now call a DAO, even though it wasn't decentralized. And fast forwarding to today, we've sort of relaunched the project in a more in an open source, community driven, organic way without marketing and corporate interests on chain. That's to say, on the Ethereum blockchain in particular. And we started with a very minimal set of smart contracts, which will allow us to, as we are here to do today, mint our first sort of sample example country. And the goal of this example country is going to basically navigate the initial minted country towards democracy dynamically as a community. So the point being that we're using this seed of self-governance that these foundational smart contracts have to, using just their own mechanisms, change their governance mechanism dynamically as a community so that future decisions for the community are also made on chain and only on chain. So we'll talk more about that. I'm actually going to hand it over to our local tech genius and developer Isno. We also have Luis, who is Argo, who is on the call listening, who has been very helpful on a technical level as well. But Isno sort of spearheaded the entire effort, and I'm going to allow him to sort of walk through the minting. And if he has any other context he wants to give, I will shut up now. But that I hope helps set the stage for what we're going to do today and why. Isno, why don't you take it from here?
All right. I'm very, very happy to do this. And I think that this is a little bit monumental for me because number one, I have never deployed a smart contract on Ethereum. So trying to so-called start a country by clicking a few buttons, that is just surreal. And not only is it surreal, it just shows how much we can do, what to what length we can really go with our imagination and intuition and innovation. These forces that are given to us now, the forces that push us in that direction, go with the times. That's a little philosophical, but you need to be a little philosophical about the whole thing when you embark on these kind of ideas. And returning back to the videos that were recorded earlier in presence of audience regarding what M People was trying to do, and me remembering and reminiscing back the days of starting M People, that is 10 years ago. That is so long ago. And if you think about it, this was not just 10 years in the making. You were working on other projects before that. They all involved some level communities, social media, things like that. So you were ahead of your time in a way, and a visionary. And now it seems like we are at the point where we actually have the requisite tools to make this happen. And I know that you and Argo have worked on a number of projects, and I know Argo is just a very patient builder, a very capable person. And I wish that he would push the button to make this happen too, because he's the kind of person that built a lot of things behind them people back in the day. But this is what happened. Person who's gonna sit in front of the keyboard and try to hit a few keystrokes. First thing I want to say here about this, I'm sitting on this Linux system. I've been on Linux for almost 30 years since the beginning. It's a very low memory system, quite demanding overhead from streaming and doing all these things, and it works. So like simple things, interacting with a distributed system, they may go very poorly. Who knows? Well, this is going to be fun to find out. I haven't minted a contract on Ethereum before, so that's going to be fun. And I think that it's important to show everyone what it looks like, so that they have a pretty good idea of what we're trying to do and what kind of tools we're using. So if you have any questions along the way, I think you should say it and stop me from doing anything stupid, or before we do anything, just let me know what you want to know. So Ari, I know you're back on stage with your mic on.
Yeah,
Should we
I'll
should we just maybe go ahead?
no, no, if you want to share your screen when you're ready and narrate the minting, I think that makes the most sense. And I will try to play the role
Sounds good.
of layman, which is not far from the truth, and ask you questions as I see them.
Sounds good. Okay, all right. Okay, so let's see. Um, just for context here, I'm monitoring my system. It has only 2 GB of memory. I'm using an old system. I've added 4 GB of virtual memory, which is through a drive, and Ethereum Remix, the ID that we are going to be using, demands about 15 GB of virtual memory. That's not real memory, virtual, not directly addressed. So it's an overload for this like old system, but I like to live on the edge here, so it's going to be fun. I'm going to share my screen and we'll see how that goes. Instead of actually sharing the screen, I'm going to share the Remix Ethereum window, and so I'm about to click the button here. All right. So can everybody see this?
Yeah, I'm expanding it now. Let me see here.
Very good. If you click on it, it will expand.
Yep, it's expanded. I'm just seeing if I can expand it even further. I don't see a way
Very
to
good.
expand any further, so I think we're good.
Okay. All right. So I am presently looking at the streaming screen. I'm going to switch to that window, try to narrate from there. Okay. So every time I touch anything with the mouse, you guys should be able to see what I'm pointing at. So let's try it first. Okay, so this is the Remix ID. I never really used this before. I mean, I have clearly this year, but I didn't have to use it for any reason before. And so we decided to build this smart contract system. This is the place to do it. Okay, so I've preloaded here the contracts that we need. And there is a video that we have on the People YouTube channel that has a walkthrough of this MVP, the minimum valuable product, when it comes to this governance mechanism that we devised. And so the main contract that is the country, this one I'm about to show. And so can everybody see all the nice colorful things?
Yeah, I think we can all see it.
Okay, cool. Okay. So this is the very, very top of the contract. If you look on the right side of the window, right here where I'm making it flicker, can you see it flicker, Ari?
Yep. Yeah, it's the resolution's
So
not
you
high
get an
enough,
idea of,
yeah, to read it, but yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you don't actually have to read it right on screen. Just follow through the process here so that we get a pretty good idea of what's going on. People can review this video after the fact and it will make sense. Okay, so the contract is over here. All you see here that's flickering is what's on the screen. I can scroll and show more of it, and you can see it's not that long. It has some functionality that we can discuss, but primarily the idea here is that it's a governance mechanism that points to a governance contract, and that governance contract effectively dictates how decisions are being made. Now, decisions being made in what context? Or there are laws that are added, removed, proposed, and so on. And so if you look at the actual contract itself, there is a structure for this, and certain attributes that you can review in the contract source code itself are there. And so the mechanism for adding, say, a law, proposing a law, going from proposing a law to adding it to later proposing to remove it and then finally removing it should consult the smart contract that is the governance mechanism. Now, the governance mechanism can be a number of things, and we may want to change it. We may want to have all kinds of interactions that affect governance. And so all of that is encapsulated in that governance contract, which I'm going to explain here. What we've done is devise the mechanism that we can change that governance contract so that we can change the governance mechanism itself by virtue of changing the governance contract. So what we would do is we would mint a country like this, and that would have a default governance mechanism, which we will explain in a second. And then suppose we want to make changes, changing the governance mechanism itself. This smart contract would be interacted with, and a decision would be made as to whether the governance mechanism has to change or not. And if it's accepted for change, then a new contract will replace the governance mechanism. This contract, which is a country that contains the laws and everything else that will be adding and removing from it, it's supposed to perpetually stay on chain unchanged. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, it does. And again, just the one sentence layman summary here is all of this is towards allowing through the on-chain mechanisms for a community to dynamically adjust the governance logic behind the community, whether it's going to be a democracy, whether it's going to be this or the other. That's why we're going through all these technical lengths here.
Great. So this contract that I'm showing here that's highlighted on the left from all the files that I have preloaded on Remix is the country contract that we're going to mint. We're going to deploy it on chain. The minting of this contract will actually create a governance mechanism, which is another contract that will be minted in the process as well. And what we have here is this default governance mechanism. If you review what this default governance mechanism is, it's actually a dictatorial monarchy. There is one person or one entity that makes all the decisions here. And this is primarily just to show that we have a way of governing this country. This is not what's going to remain, it's what we're going to mint today. And as I said, we expect that this thing will be changed, hopefully with community input and some kind of vote, such that when changes to anything will happen via the governance mechanism itself. But as a starting point, it's going to be this dictatorial monarchy. All right, I'm going to return back to the actual country contract, which is this one. And I'll point out that there is the founders that's highlighted. That's an immutable variable. And so there will be a founder that's going to be recorded perpetually on chain for doing this. And also that the creation of the country is going to be there for everyone to know, even though that's kind of redundant. That's okay. This founder is what we will need. Okay. Before we proceed with minting this and deploying the contract and having a country on chain, I'd like to show you about what this will look like. So This system here, which is the Remix IDE, allows us to compile this contract and test it. So I'm going to try this. And you see that my mouse clicked on this green button. Now this IDE produced a binary copy of this, which means it compiled successfully. That's why it's green over here on the left. So this contract is pretty much ready to go. All we need is a deployment transaction. Before we do that on chain, I'd like to go into this virtual machine that is inside this IDE and show what the process looks like. So on the upper left, there is a selection of virtual machines that run these tests. At the very, very top is the provider to the mainnet. So if we use this, we're going to go straight to the mainnet. We're not doing that. We're using this virtual machine that's just for testing. It's just like a network that doesn't exist. It just exists inside my browser. Okay. There is an address here that is preloaded with 100 Ether, and the whole purpose of this is to allow me to make these interactions as if I'm interacting with a blockchain. This is the loss contract that's precompiled, ready to go. And in order to deploy it, I just have to hit this button right here. This button requires an input, and this input is going to be the founder address. So let's just say that I'm going to make the founder myself for this test. I'm going to copy this address to the clipboard and put it in as the input for the founder, and then simply deploy. So if I click this, it will deploy the contract on this virtual blockchain. So I'll do that. You can see right here at the bottom that the console indicated that something did take place. And over here on the bottom left, there is a contract that's been deployed. You see how I'm moving back and forth between showing the contents of it and the contract address, right? So let's see if I can make this a little bigger for people to see the console. Okay. So now there are some state variables and some interactions. The interactions, which are these orange things, it's basically how anyone who interacts with this contract will interact with it in terms of some functionality. So there is proposing laws, adding laws, things like that. But there is also state variables inside. Like, for example, the creation timestamp, which is immutable. So if I hit this, the console is going to give me an output at the bottom, and it shows exactly when this happened. This is, of course, on the virtual chain, not on the real one. It also has the founder address call. So if I hit that and expand, it shows me this founder address. And if you compare this founder address with what I gave the deployment process, which is on upper here, that's the same one. Trust me, that's the case. All right. So if we wanted to change the governance mechanism, what we would do is we would deploy a different governance contract. Like, for example, I would select maybe a different kind of monarchy from what I have here, like this default. And then I would deploy that contract, and subsequently, I would interact with the country contract with this interaction here so that I can make a change of governance. We won't do that today, at least I don't anticipate to do that. But what we will do is we will deploy this contract on chain. Okay. Any questions?
No, I think that's good so far.
Okay, cool. Well, let's hope things go well. Okay, so I have my MetaMask wallet, and I'm going to switch to the mainnet, switching to this provider, and I have an address here created for this and people process, and I preloaded with some Ether right here, and you can see that I call it "Is Not Good and People." Okay. So when we want to deploy this contract, we have to compile the contract. So I'm going to do it again. And now clean up the console so that we see what happens. Okay. Now the address, just going to open MetaMask one more time. So the address, this specific address that I'm using, or friend people can see, I can copy this to clipboard and copy it from here. So I'll just copy it from this. Okay, it's being copied, and I'm going to provide it as the founder. Now, if I deploy this contract, I become the founder. Ari, I think if you want to be the founder, I can still deploy the contract with your address. What do you think?
No, I think it's only right for you to be the founder here.
All right. I'll take full responsibility for everything that goes wrong then. Okay, so let's see what happens. I'll deploy. All right. So we have a transaction, and this is my address here at the top. There's a contract creation, and it needs some gas fees and all this stuff. So I'm just going to confirm. The MetaMask opens up. You guys may or may not be able to see it actually open on the browser. And I am going to confirm that I want to perform this transaction. Okay. All right. So it says here that we can view on Etherscan. Shall we? Ready?
I'm ready. If you were asking me,
Asking you.
yes.
All right. Okay. So it says that it's pending. So the transaction is there. I just got a confirmation for the transaction that went through MetaMask, and it looks like it's there.
That's
Success.
awesome.
You see that?
Look at that. Something worked out as planned the first time. That's amazing in this world.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I think it is amazing.
Well,
All
we
right.
are witnessing history
Yeah.
here, the first impeopled country ever founded by yours truly, Isno.
Yeah, and it only cost us 24, just under $25, right? Pretty cool.
Yeah, for compared to what it was like during the peak bubble stages, that's downright cheap. But
That's
yes,
right.
they're still working on scaling solutions, which should bring that down by a factor of 10 at least. Um,
That's
some
right.
pretty exciting stuff. But this is very cool. So I almost, I mean, Yanni, I don't want to cut you off at all, but I almost want to, after you have maybe some summary remarks, wrap it up there. Of course, if there's any questions in the audience, we can ask it because it's succinct, and I think it really highlights what we were trying to do here, which is mint the country. The one thing I would say before I handed it back off to you to conclude is to the audience that might be listening in the future, subsequent to this now being minted, we are going to organize on our Discord, which you should join, the InPeople Discord, to talk and basically make decisions about how we're going to transition this from being Isno's dictatorship, which is the default starting state, as we've said before, into the democracy or whatever we decide as a collective to transition it to, and whatever governance logic we want to shift it to, which again will be an enforced on chain mechanism built into these smart contracts that were designed to modularly be and dynamically adjust. That's the whole point of them. So with that, Isno, I'm gonna let you sort of wrap us up.
I see. I'm very happy that I see one of my really close friends, very nerdy, very capable, terminal degree, massive blockchain and distributed system. In addition to Argo, and his BT's there, and I'm really really happy that he's seeing this live. So I'm just going to go back to this Etherscan, and because I haven't done this before, and we just created first country with this contract, I'm just going to click here and see what it shows us. Everybody will be happy to know that 2 minutes And so there is action, and we have the contract. We have, with this point, with the bytecode, but we'll do, instead of having something like the opcode view or anything like that, which is just this garbage binary nobody wants to look at, we will have to upload and publish with this verify and publish, so that everybody can actually see the contract Etherscan. And I'm talking about the actual source of the contract. And so I think that's about it. We are going to do some testing, probably make some more videos about it, and see what happens. And if we're successful, we'll continue building on top of this. What do you
Awesome.
say?
Awesome. I'm excited, and this is great that it worked out as smoothly as it did, by the way. Very impressed. And of course, all credit to Isno and Argo. And I, of course, would not be able to do any of this on-chain stuff. But I do enjoy my pontificating and helping with the conceptual design. So congratulations, Isno. You did something pretty cool here. And I think with time,
Thank you.
more and more people are going to appreciate it. So thanks everybody, and to
Thank
our
you.
loyal diehard fans who showed up in the audience, all two of you, thank you very much for coming, and we'll talk again soon. Cheers, guys. I'm gonna disconnect.